Let's f***ing roll.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're in the McMaster studio here in FOCO, USA. You're listening to the SaltyMF Go podcast. Today we have Najeh Wilkins with us today. We're really excited to talk to him. He's a syndicated talk show host with Keeping It Real. He's a sideline, reporter with Peachtree TV, and we're glad to have you here, man. Let's get into it, bud.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, I love it. I was so excited to have you on because what a time of the year to like talk to you about this. I mean, high school football, semifinals coming up,
yes.
Georgia-Alabama game. And I know that, you're with Score Atlanta as well.
Yes,
I mean, you're this guy, he's a young guy. I didn't ask him how young he is, but his resume is unbelievable. I mean, he's written for Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Yes.
I mean, he's the real deal. And one day I think we're going to see him on ESPN. So
that's definitely been a dream of mine. That's definitely been a dream of mine. Yeah. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved just, watching it and being able to, recite back the stats. And I still watch it to this day, just some of the shows and some of the things like that. But yeah, I would say now a word I came up with myself, kind of just a versatile on-air personality, because I do sideline reporting. I'm going to be calling a couple games on Saturday for Corky basketball on Peachtree Sports Network. I'll be calling it from the booth, a little color commentary. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I saw, at first we got to introduce kind of through football, through the playoffs. But I mean, like you said, you're basically reporting on all sports, right?
Yes,
basketball, volleyball, whatever.
And then spring was lacrosse for me as well. I covered that whole thing, the state championships, did the state championship guy for GHSA. So yes, sir.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds like just an unbelievable job.
No, it's fun. I mean, what I would tell people is always go into something that you're passionate about, right? Just find a way to monetize it. I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you're passionate about art, you're passionate about sports. Like I've always been passionate about sports. I played when I was younger, up until high school, ran track and things like that. But just find a way to monetize it. But we cover basically everything. That's Score Atlanta. Score Atlanta, you're going to see us cover everything. All the sports, football, volleyball, basketball, tennis, swimming, everything.
Yeah, so I would ask you, do you have a favorite sport you like to cover and be on the sidelines with?
That is such a good one. I get that one all the time. I would have to say number one has always been football. A close second has been basketball. And then what's really growing on me lately is soccer. I've been really into that, following. And it's an emerging kind of sport in the USA. So that's number three for me. And then after that, I'll probably be baseball.
Baseball, that's great. That's great. So, Georgia, I've got my Georgia cap on. This is semifinal week, right? I mean, so we've got 7A, 6A, 5A, all the way down to 1A. And then I even was looking last night, we've got Division 2A, right?
Yeah, Class A Division 2.
What is that?
So that is basically, Class A Division 2 is basically like private. So it's like the private schools, they'll end up playing some really good schools down there that you can see that don't get a lot of notice. You got, obviously, your Swainsboro, Prince Avenue Christian is a Class A Division 1, I believe. You also got Schley County. Bowden and Schley County play this week. So that's going to be really intriguing. Those two going at it. Bowden won it all last year. Schley County has a lot of, good talent, 4-star prospects, Zayden Walker. There's so much talent all over the field for them.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia traditionally, just as a state, has so much talent. I mean, not just football, but all kinds of sports, basketball as well. You're a local guy. I mean, you went to Norcross High School, went to Georgia State, right?
Sure.
And graduated with a 4.0. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was not easy.
Yeah.
I will say that. It was not easy. I was I took a couple honors classes too. I was working. I was at the bank at the time. And I also had an internship I was doing with AJC / Georgia High School Football Daily. And I also wrote for the school paper. I was covering the Atlanta Hawks a little bit. Got to interview Trey Young, John Collins when he was with the team, some of their emerging talent as well. So being able to do that really kind of helped me. But yeah, I was doing a lot. I was probably working about 2 jobs and still being a full-time student.
Well, that's why you're successful, because you realize that, it's amazing in life. Sometimes the busier you are, the more opportunity comes, and that includes even working when you've got to work and go to school. And I think you appreciate it more. And that's great, man. You've done good. I'm proud of you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I have to tell people when you go to school, just challenge yourself. Life is not hard, right? Life is going to throw adversity your way. I had to deal with adversity, but I think if you're able to handle it, you'll be able to handle anything that life kind of throws at you. And I think that's what's lost in school sometimes is people say, oh, well, it's not really beneficial anymore going to school, getting a degree. But I think what it shows is that you have the ability to be able to go and dedicate yourself to something and be able to grind, because school's grind.
Yeah,
right? You're going to have assignments. You're going to have a bunch of stuff you got to kind of juggle and do. And life's the same way.
Yeah.
Like life, you're juggling, you're challenging and different things, trying to be better. And you got this coming at you. You know, you got your family, you got your friends, if you're in a relationship. Like it's all of these things you have to juggle, your career. So I think that's what school really is. It shows you how to balance everything and really work on your time management. That's what I kind of came away with it out of everything.
I love that because, excuse me, I love that because, you know, we kind of moved into this NIL space with Salty and started sponsoring college kids. And we sponsored our first high school athlete a couple weeks ago. But it's a good message from you because you're not that far removed from where these guys and gals are. And I think that's some very good wisdom for them. And, you know, because you're in a sport, like people don't really realize. It's hard for us because like we want to sponsor some of these athletes, but you know, they're traveling to games, they're studying, and it's almost like, you know, we've learned a lot this year. I'm almost going to pick the athletes like for next year early,
right?
Because they don't have time to be messing with it while they're in season. And you know, we've been very fortunate, but a lot of really smart, good athletes, but a lot of them have the same attitude, good attitude about you know, the sport, the discipline. And I think, you know, being an athlete, the greatest thing I think sports give you is the discipline.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's so crucial in life because if you want to achieve something, and the big thing that people don't like to put together is discipline and consistency is the same thing almost, right? Because in order to be consistent towards a goal, you have to be disciplined enough to be able to put in the daily deposits every single day, right? And sometimes, you know, I'll throw working out, a big example in there. Some days you're not going to feel like wanting to do it, right? But if you are disciplined enough to be consistent on days you don't want to do it, then you're going to be great. It's the same thing with sports, as you just mentioned. You go to the college athlete, think about it. They got to wake up in the morning, right? They got to go, they got to do workouts, right? Then they got to go to their classes. They got to do their second workout. Then they got to go to team meetings. Then they got practice. So every day you're probably not going to feel like doing that, but you know that in the end, there's something that you want to achieve. You got to be consistent in your discipline to be able to want to achieve that.
100%. And as you get older, you know, even like, you know, you fall out of love when you're younger and you're an athlete, you're forced to work out. As you get older, you're not forced to, you need to.
Yes.
So that's really where the discipline comes in, where you're like, I'm just going to go do it. I'm just going to do it. And works the same way. You know, I think you can find those lull moments though, where you know, give yourself a little bit of break, but realize, you know, just go push through it. So
that's it. I think that's life. Just push through it and keep going, battle through the adversity. And that's what it is. And you're right, because like as an adult, it's like, you need to do it because you want to keep your body fresh and whole. And, you know, if you want to achieve stuff, if you don't got your body, you don't got your health, you can't really do too much, you know? So that is really important as well.
So what's your schedule look like? You're doing a lot of stuff, right? And I've like, even this podcast, so we're only doing it now, you know, 2-3 times a month. It's not like we're doing it every day.
Right.
And I kind of see these people that do it every day. And I really have a lot of respect for them because organizing the content, making sure that you have good guests. So what's your schedule like now?
Well, on a day-to-day, it varies a little bit. So sometimes I'll get put on an assignment with Score, and I'll have to do, you know, assignment they're writing wise, a daily dive or something like that. But a day-to-day, so I have 2 shows I do. I co-host a show with Craig Sager, who also works for Peachtree and Score Atlanta. So we call it a show on Tuesday. It's called Underrated and Overlooked. We try to like give praise and try to throw recognition on athletes that aren't talked about enough in high school sports in Georgia. So just trying to help them out. So that's Tuesday. So I have to plan that. So I plan that probably Sunday, Monday night. Then I have a show I do with just myself Thursday. So actually I got a show after I get done with you that I'm going to do on NFHS Network and on YouTube. And I'm actually bringing an out-of-state player on, Josiah Dozier, who I met at Georgia Tech 707. So I try to bring like a different spiel on my shows as well. I try to get players from out of state, building that relationship, building that brand, and then, you know, cultivating the relationship. So I think a lot of people are at too, and just as a side note, they'll build the relationship with the player, they'll meet them. Hey, I'm just going to get an interview with you, and then that's it.
Right.
No, cultivate the relationship. Don't just go, oh, okay, I got what I got out of you. That's it.
Yeah.
Actually grow it. Check in on them, see how they doing. You know, hey, what you been up to? How's school going? Just those little things like that. Bring them on your show just to talk about how the season was. Then they get comfortable with you. Then you might be able to get, okay, hey, he's going to recruit here. He's going to go here for school. So I think that's important too. That's a side note. But that's how it looks during the weekday. And then Monday's all like I'm always running. I'll probably write about 4 to 5 articles a week. Then I have my show on Tuesday. Then I do a podcast at my house on Tuesday nights.
Does that keep it real?
No, Keep It Real is the Thursday show.
Thursday, okay.
Yes, sir. So today at 2, got that. And then the other one is just First and Foremost podcast. We just do it remotely, but we just talk about sports, basketball, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I have a pretty intense week. And then Friday nights, I was doing the sideline reporting. I've been at home recently. But, as we go into the basketball season, I've been calling games more now, too. So I'll be calling some games Saturday. But it varies. But it's pretty intense.
So are you not doing any of the playoff games?
No, I'm trying to go to the state championships. That's
Yeah.
going to be, I think, a week and some change from today. I just want to go and be able to see the kids play. Last year, I wasn't able to. It was my first year because it's only going into my second year. But no, I haven't been doing any of the playoffs.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah. Well, I've watched some of your stuff. I think it's good. I think you'd be great on there. So that you
Appreciate
should.
that.
I don't know if you're just not in the schedule, but you should be. It's funny how you talk about building relationships, though, because even in this NIL, we're we're a young brand trying to compete with other kind of big apparel brands. So NIL, what people don't really realize is you got the top maybe 1% that everybody's trying to go after them, Nike, whoever it is, big brands, and then you've got the rest of the 600,000 plus students that play college sports.
Yes.
And one of the things that we've gotten feedback from our athletes that we sponsor is the fact, we'll check up on them, send them gear every now and whatever. And they said that building that relationship is really important because reality is a lot of these people aren't going to the NFL or NBA and it's not about that. NIL in my mind should be more about how you build your brand, how you, run a business, how, how you understand it, not just, looking for that big hit. Do you probably talk to a lot of these younger athletes in high school and stuff about that? What's their feeling on this kind of NIL name, image, and likeness?
They're excited. I don't know if you saw, but GHSA actually just passed a bylaw that you can actually profit now in high school off of NIL deal. Recently, I just saw the other day, 4-star athlete and linebacker for Grayson, Tyler Atkinson, actually just signed one with Zenith. It's like a helmet company.
Yeah.
But he's going to be their basically main brand ambassador, essentially.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I love it for the athletes being able just to profit early and, like you said, build that brand name. What I think is unique, though, in your situation is you can kind of find that niche market. And it kind of goes back to what we do with Underrated and Overlooked. We look for athletes that aren't necessarily, Nike's not after this athlete, or Adidas is not after this athlete.
Right.
So I think what makes sure it's cool, you have such good gear and such good apparel, you can go after athletes that, let's say, maybe underrated, a lot of people don't know about. And then if they build their brand name in college, then they're like, check out my SaltyMF gear, and then they could just build off of that. So I think that's the cool thing about your industry and your business, and I think you can really profit off that in the future. But I think back to your point about NIL, a lot of them are excited. A lot of them don't know. There's a lack of education as well. So you definitely got to educate yourself, and you definitely want to make sure you're answering all the questions. Maybe have a lawyer look at some stuff. If I had to say, just don't jump into something because they're off you. Really read through the fine print and see first. But from the athlete perspective, they're super excited to be able to profit off in their high school and in college and being able to build that brand and possibly, like you said, those business deals into the future. Yeah,
I mean, even Peachtree TV in Score Atlanta, when we were younger and played sports, I'm a local guy too. I went to North Springs High School in Sandy Springs. You didn't have all the visibility you have now. I mean, everything's on the internet or YouTube or on a TV channel, or you can watch any high school game you want, which is awesome, for athletes today. So, I mean, it'd be cool to be able to play in that environment because they have so many tools that they can promote themselves or get their personality out there. We found though, we love the underdogs, and
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. I love the underdogs. I mean, and just seeing them, and then that's what I always tell my co-host Craig, you just never know. You doing just that little bit. I love to do tell the tapes. I don't know if you've seen that on my segments, but I love to analyze players' film and then give them a little bit of exposure.
Yeah.
Just because they're not, like you said, going D1 or Power 5. What if they go Group 5, D2? And what if they go and they get that nice offer and then maybe, make it on the next level with something big? They're going to always remember what you did for them.
Exactly. I mean, just look at Chicago Bears quarterback, the kid that stepped out. So I don't know his name, but
Tyler Bates.
Yeah, he stepped in. I mean, now he was pretty awesome in Division II. I mean, he was he led all the scoring and passing. It wasn't like he just, wasn't a good athlete, but, that's an amazing story. No one would think that guy's going to step in, but, he met his dream, just kept grinding.
That's it, and then he always got a moment he'll always cherish, and be able to kind of go back to. But
Yeah.
I think we're one and the same because we both like the underdog. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I mean, with a SaltyMF is it's about gritty, tough, people that don't give up. So that's amazing. So so I know we met through Rob Baca and Brinks TV. They're doing a really good job. We're really excited about the stuff they're doing on their platform and being able to highlight athletes. What would you give? What advice? I mean, you've covered a lot of athletes. You've been on the sideline. Like, what advice do you give someone that wants to get into, really the media business? I mean, you're an online media personality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're commentating. You have podcast shows. I mean, this guy is more of a professional than I am. I've only been doing this like 8 months, so I'm trying to get some good pointers out from Najeh because I don't know. So
I would say it's definitely tough. I can definitely attest to it. It took me a long time to get into the industry, right? Even though I was working at school and writing for the school paper, it still took me a long time. Luckily, how I got to school, I talk about school, and how I got the internship with them or the job. So actually, I had such a good resume, as you kind of alluded to. I had applied for an internship. I was like, at the time I was working at Apple. Yeah. It's cool. Like, Apple's not a bad company. It's a good company, but it's not my passion. It's not what I want to do. So I just applied, and then I ended up getting a call from the general manager, Graham, and he was just like, hey, we love your resume. You think you can stop by one day for an interview? I was like, sure, I'll stop by. And then before you know it, I think they were contemplating, do we bring them up for an internship or a full-time job? So then, it was kind of cool to be able to see that kind of pan out, and then it ended up being a full-time job, coming in Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturday. So that's how it started for me. And I would just say, like, anybody that does it, and I got another guy that helped me too, was Todd Holcomb. I interned with him with AJC and some of the work in Georgia High School Daily. So he kept bringing my name up. So that's kind of how they got wind of my name. Yeah. And then me applying and then all that kind of culminated together. So I would say intern. Never be afraid to put yourself out there. Learn as much as you can. And then just be able to bring something different that a lot of people aren't really used to seeing or a lot of people don't know about. So like, you might not know this, but the YouTube channel for Score Atlanta, I started that.
That's all.
Yeah, so I created and everything, all the content I'm all responsible for. Yeah. Same thing with their TikTok. So all that stuff I'm trying to grow for their brand, I started all that stuff. Yeah. So they didn't have that where they can go, like you go on NFHS and see it, but you can't go back and go through the archives and be able to go back and see like football games. Like, they didn't have that before. Like, now you can go on a YouTube page. Okay, hey, this game's on Peachtree Sports Network. You can go back and watch it. The game they had last week, Walker Carrollton, you can go back and watch it.
That's awesome.
So I would say create first a LinkedIn account. They need to get connected with you first.
Yeah.
They connected with you first.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, it's funny because I grew up in the tech business, so we have tech companies, and it's funny. The older I get, they're like, it gets so much to me, like I can't keep up with a lot of the stuff. So we may hire you to do all of our YouTube stuff.
Hey,
now that I know that you know how to do it, right?
I do.
So Salty's been an interesting brand. It's a brand. It's more almost entertainment like. So totally different twist.
Yep.
You got to put on a new personality.
Yes.
You got to be out front. And so at first we were kind of like, yeah, let's do it. What the hell?
Right.
Let's do it.
Nice. But yeah, my advice to other people, just build connections in the industry. I think that's the biggest thing. Build connections and continue to grind and work, and a door is going to open. It's hard. It was tough. It took me years, to just be able to get here. And the crazy part, like I told you, I'm only entering year 2. Yeah. So I'm really just getting started. So I'm young. Well, I'm only 26. I'm just getting started.
You've been doing twice as long as I have. 2.5 the time.
Yes, sir.
But it's fun because people ask like, well, what do you want this podcast to be? And I'm like, I really just want to have a conversation with people that, are interesting people. They're doing fun stuff. They're having a good time. They love what they're doing. I mean, that's obvious,
yes,
watching your stuff, you're going to be successful regardless, because you love it and you're doing a good job. And I mean, I love your story before. You were talking about when you were a young kid, you just loved watching ESPN.
Yes.
And you knew more about your dad's team than he knew when he was 6.
Yes. So it's hard to believe, but I was just quoting his stats to him. And then another great story is, my grandfather at the time, in the passing, but he was a Washington fan. Yeah. So he would come in, he'd be like, I would tell him like, whoa, Grandpa, this is why you guys aren't good. Like, you guys got to improve this and this. He was like, what do you know about my team? You don't watch my team? I'm like, I watch this every day. Like, I know. And then it would come to fruition. He'd be like, wow, you were so right, And, it shocked him at the time. I was able to quote, and I was like, You know, it used to be back in the day, the Washington Redskins and Dallas Cowboys games.
Oh, yeah.
I used to love. And I'd be like, well, Grandpa, y'all not gonna win because of this. You know what I'm saying? This is what stands out. Your defense is not good in this area.
Yeah.
So it just shocked them. But yeah, that's kind of how it started for me. And then, you know, my dad, he a big Philly fan. He couldn't convert me to a Philly fan. But you know, obviously that's my second team. But Cincinnati is where it's home for me.
Yeah,
I love them as a team. Yeah, it was Chad Ochocinco for me. That's where it started.
Oh, yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, I loved him, so that's where it started. But yeah, now me and my dad, we have talks all the time, talk about the game, and we take more of almost an analytical part about it now.
Yeah.
We don't even talk about the game, but we talk about, okay, how does Philly look with this? Like, should they go for it on this down? And you know, how well is Jalen Hurts performing? Like, should they run the ball a little bit more? Like, we go more analytical now than.
I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I mean, I
love him. I love the story too.
He's one of my favorite fans. I hate it what Alabama did to him, but I think it's great what how he's the real deal.
Yes.
And now that they got all the Georgia players up there, you know, I'm like Philly. So I'll tell you a funny story. This is a Philly story. So one of my best friends is from Philly, and Atlanta this is when Michael Vick was at Atlanta. This is how long ago it was. So my kid, who's 25 now, almost your age, he was probably 8. So we went up on New Year's Eve to watch the Falcons play the Eagles. And we're leaving the hotel. My wife's got Falcons gear on, and my son's got a Vic shirt on. And the doorman at the hotel goes, "Don't wear that, guys. Take it off." And my wife's like, "Oh, we're Falcons fans." And the guy's like, "No, really, don't wear that." And I'm like, "Dude, it's Atlanta. Like, what do they care? I mean, it's not like they're playing New York or
Dallas
or something." But anyways, I've never gotten so abused. And we're walking through there, and people are screaming, just the most obscenities about Vic. And my kid's 8 years old, And so we come up on this green Winnebago, and it says, "There's no brotherly love on Sunday." And there's 3 giant dudes bigger than me with beards out there grilling out, drunk, having fun, and they're screaming profanities. And my kid, "Vic sucks," which is ironic because then they got Vic later on.
Literally.
Yeah, Vic became the quarterback. So my kid turns around. It was a funny story. He's 8. He goes, "I'm 8. I'm 8 years old." And then the guy's like, "He's only 8 years old, you asshole." Then they start fighting each other. I was like, when I go, I'm never coming back to a Philly game ever again. I might now, but that was like 17 years. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so it was funny, but that's my Philly story.
I've never been up there before, but I've heard similar stories to that.
Don't wear an opposing jersey. Whatever. We ended up, I think by the end of the game, I got my kid like a Dawkins jersey. I said, "Dude, just put it on. Just put it on, man." Yeah. They're going to get beat up here, but that's my Philly. Well, I love you, Philly, but
how did it make sense?
Oh no! Well, my buddy too. He was like, "Hey, I want to come on my birthday." I'm like, "Dude, I'll meet you in London, Tokyo, Las Vegas, LA, anywhere, but I ain't coming to Philly." He was mad at me because I wouldn't go to Philly. So
don't blame you after that story.
Yeah, but it's I now I love them now. Jalen Hurts, and they got a really good team.
They do. They're 10-1. I think the only team that's done that back-to-back years like that in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So they're looking good. They got a big one this week. They got to play San Fran, so that game got a lot of implications.
So are you what's your favorite, college or NFL?
College. I was born in Miami. My favorite college team is Miami. We've sucked for a while, but I've grown up on like the Ray Lewis, the Clinton Portises of the world. Michael Irvin, obviously. Jimmy Graham.
Oh yeah.
Trying to think of the other tight end who played for the Giants. I can't think of his name, but I grew up Ed Reed.
Oh yeah,
I grew up on those guys.
He's awesome, man. Ed Reed's awesome. And
I love
the crew that came out of that at that time was just amazing. The athletes that came out, amazing.
It was next level.
So just for the Georgia, since we're sitting in Georgia, we're here in Georgia. It's kind of semifinal weekend. So give me like your top just 3 games, why you like them, maybe if you know enough about the players to highlight them.
Sure.
I mean, and not to put you under pressure. You don't have no pressure.
No, I'm trying to think of the top ones. I
know Grayson's at Milton or Milton at Grayson. Or
that one's not getting a lot of love. I don't know why. Like that one, like you would think would maybe be a TV game. I mean, when you think about the matchup, right? What Coach Brian is doing with that group, as young as he is, he's only 28 years old, first year head coach, and he has them in the Final Four. Only the coach that was able to do that in his first year had to be Coach Reeves from Milton, who was there now. Only in his second year, back-to-back semifinal appearances. So he's doing a marvelous job. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's intriguing, right? And I actually had Grayson upsetting Buford the week before.
Yeah.
I just love like their speed and their talent, right? We talked about Tyler Atkinson and his deal. He's a linebacker. He, all over the field. He had 3 sacks in that game against that Buford offensive line. So I think the keys for both teams. Key for Grayson is you got your special teams has to be better. Special teams was not good. Defense kind of carried the way in that win against Buford. So special teams got to be better. I think if you're Milton coming in, you got to be able to strike fast and early, build up a lead, and you cannot attack Grayson sideline to sideline, right? Yeah. They're too athletic. They're too good. Yeah. You got to go down the field, and that goes into Milton's favor because they got the quarterback Luke Nichols going to Miami. And they got the weapons, right? They got C.J. Wiley, who can beat you down the field. He's not committed yet, but a highly recruited 2025 kid. And then they also got DeBron Gallo, who's Texas A&M commit. So I think when that goes in Milton's favor, they can go take those deep shots and be successful, right? And they're never out of game. Nobody took them to beat Colquitt County, And they were down early, but guess what the defense did? Got the ball back to them. They started to build a rhythm. And they was able to build a lead. So I think the Milton Grayson one's going to be exciting. Milton got some underrated linebackers. A.J. Benton, Ja'Cory Stewart is a Kansas commit. Hayden Tumania and Jack Lawson. All those kids can play. All of them had sacks in their last game against Colquitt County. Ja'Cory Stewart and Ben both had interceptions that were pretty much game changers in that game. So I think it's a thrilling matchup. I mean, and then you look at Grayson, Colin Fox, the tight end, right, can beat you in the short and intermediate spots and things like that. They got a deep threat with John Senius who can beat you.
This guy knows football
down the field. Yes, so it's going to be intriguing, but it's going to start in the trenches. If you're Milton, you got to get low, right? Your leverage is going to be important in that game. And the only bad thing that I'm taking Milton to win this game, the only bad thing is, though, Luke Nichols, their best runner. Like their last game, 119 yards and a touchdown. Like Amari Anderson and T.J. Lesher took a long time to get going. So they got to get going early, I think, in that game. But Milton got a shot in this game now. I know.
So are you going to call it, or are you going to?
I wish, man. I wish, but I don't know if you know Luke Winston. He's going to be calling the game with David Bellamy on NFHS.
Oh, okay.
This is one I'm definitely excited about. Grayson, J.D. Davis don't get a lot of love at QB position, but he's having a marvelous year. But I got to go with Milton, man. It took me a while. I love both programs. I'm in good with both programs, but
that's right. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Nah, you did. We talked about it earlier.
So I was sorry. I mean, guys, we have so many games going on. I was also trying to highlight. So they had another big one that Walton's playing Camden County. So
now that was interesting too because Camden County kind of runs that wing T offense, right? So the key. I hate the wing. You're not a fan?
No, it's the worst. It's the worst.
They said it might be making a comeback.
No, God. As a kid, when we coached, I hated seeing people in that old wing tee.
Yeah, so they run that. So the key for Walton is I don't think nobody in the state can really stop their offense, right? Yeah. You see what they did to Carrollton, right? Yeah. 8 possessions, 8 touchdowns. All Walton has to do, they got to be efficient with their possessions. You cannot turn over the football against Camden because Camden can play ball control, keep the ball away from you, right? They got Elias Williams, who they got on the outside. You could use him anywhere on the field. He's defensive end, he's a tight end, and he can be a receiver. So the key for them going in is if I'm Walton, I want the ball first, right? Yeah. And I want the ball first because I want to go that 7-0 lead. You rather have a team that runs the football, play from behind instead of playing in front because they're going to try to limit your possession. So I just, and another player, a lot of people have been talking about him on Twitter. I just want to bring him up real quick. Jeremy Heklinski, the quarterback that's going to Wake Forest.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a lot of love. But, the kid comes from a great family. He don't care about that, right? He cares about getting better and playing his best football. And I think the kid's special. I think this is the name Heklinski you need to know as well. He's going to be a college star, I think, at Wake Forest.
That's awesome. And you called it right here.
I'm calling it right here. So I've called a lot of upsets too in my day. I called the Walton Buford upset last year nobody had. I did call that one, but I think the kid's going to be special. And he's having an all-state type of season. If we do a top 50, like we did last year with Score Orlando on Peachtree Sports Network, he's the number one player to me. No disrespect to Sammy Brown, or KJ Bowen, or Andrew Houston, or Mike Matthews, but he's the best player in the state. I don't know what else he needs to show, but he's the best player in the state. But I'm rolling with Walton in that one. But they got to make sure they don't turn over the football. Great weapons in Jordan Van Bride, Cam Lloyd, I didn't mention as well, Hunter Teal, Wendell Gregory on the defensive side, Jason Kruger. They got some dudes, man. I think this is Walton year. They finally, win the state championship.
That's awesome. Hey, you're going to see this young man on ESPN one day, I'm telling you. I mean, just the fact that he knows the detail and the stats is amazing, man. That's amazing. So we give some love to I was trying to look at Sports Illustrated was showing
Sure.
So the 2A, the Cook and Rockmart, you know anything about?
I know a little bit about that one. If I had to go with a team, I think I had picked Rockmart to win that one. I think they were having a phenomenal year, right? They could run the football well. Cook's been playing well. Rockmart's really blown out their competition, right? They have not been challenged yet. So I want to see can Cook really try to challenge them, but I think I think Rockmart, I got to roll with them. I think they come out on top. Yeah.
So I love what you're talking about, like highlighting, players that aren't really getting the love. Because sometimes, for whatever reason, you've got a star athlete that that's all they're talking about, quarterback, whatever. But then you've got an outside linebacker or a offensive guard or a nose tackle or somebody that's really like they're not paying as much attention to.
Yep.
Is there any like coming into this weekend kids you just shouted one out, but is there any other kids like you think are, really star potential and are not getting as much? And I mean, if you don't, it's no pressure. I know you know a lot about these young athletes.
I do. I think a team that doesn't get a lot of love is Stockbridge. They're going to play Benedictine this week.
Right.
I'm actually excited for that matchup too. Stockbridge is at home. I have been bad, I will say. I think I took Stockbridge on our show with Craig, and I took Benedictine on the other one. So that one I've been kind of torn about. But they don't get a lot of love. Jaden Duke Scott, who's going to NC State, they got a really special team. Yeah. And then I got to go Creekside. Right, Creekside at Fairburn, they don't get a lot of love, but Roger McCreary's been having a great year. Travis Terrell, and that's another intriguing matchup. Those two kind of playing as well. And I gotta give some love to Stars middle quarterback Logan Iganawa. He had a 41-yard Hail Mary game-winning pass against the number one team, or one of the number one teams in 4A in Central Carrollton. Had not lost a game. They got a true freshman who's a phenom right now, getting a lot of love, and J.R. Harris, and they got a star running back in the 2026 class, Jonas Walton as well. So for them to go get that win on the road and to throw that game-winning pass, struggled a little bit early, but got it going. He's the player I'm going to shout out on my show today when I tell the tape. Logan Iganawa, he's been having a great year as well. But those are some that stand out to me, and I haven't talked about the matchup, but Creekside and Jefferson, I'm actually excited, right? Yeah. I want to see Creekside, can that defensive front kind of limit Sammy Brown? And why it's so intriguing, Sammy plays both ways, right?
This is amazing.
Yeah, so he plays linebacker and he plays running back. Think about it. Those two are the most physically imposing positions you can play in football. Yeah. And I want to see, I know how physical of a front Creekside is. And I never say this about Sammy because Sammy's a superstar. Yeah. Will he wear down in that game? Tomorrow's supposed to be raining, wet, on the road, right? They going to bring the punch to you, Creekside is. So I want to see how can they hold up. I know they got other great athletes on the field, Keelan Butler as well at defensive end spot. But can Creekside finally kind of get over that? They won a championship in 2013, 2014, but can they get over the hump at home and punch their tickets to the state championship? That's such an intriguing matchup as well.
Najeh's picks right here, buddy. He broke it down. That's some good analysis and breakdown. So let's say it's big game this weekend with Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So we got to mention it.
Of course,
we're in a Georgia hat. You got to mention it. So what's your take on that?
My take on this is it's so interesting because everybody's been debating okay, if Georgia loses, will they get into the final four, right? And I think you look at their resume, they've beaten all the ranked teams, right? Yeah. So even if they lose, I think they still should have an argument to get in. Bama, obviously, if they win, they would get in. The standout in this game, though, and you go back and look at the Georgia Tech game, what were they able to do against Georgia Tech? They was able to run that football. Yeah. And they got a two-headed monster. You got Dejon Edwards and you got Kendall Milton. Kendall Milton just went off for 150+ and 2 touchdowns.
He's awesome. And he's healthy.
Exactly. And the thing about Georgia that's not talked about a lot, and Rusty Mansell, I don't know if you know him, but he mentioned his one on Dogs HQ and on his site, that offensive line, their ability to be able to get to the second level of the defense and open up those big gaping holes and makes Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards' job so much easier. Yeah. So my standout in this game, I want to see, can their offense, I won't say manhandle, can they control the defensive line for Alabama? I think that's going to be a really interesting story to see. And a lot of people, I don't know what it is, but they're not sold on Carson Beck. It's like, he's done everything you wanted him to do.
The dude threw for 250 yards and over 8 games. I don't think anyone's ever. There was one other person that maybe had done that.
That's what I'm saying. So, and then he lit up Ole Miss's defense in that big game at home. What else? I don't know what else they want to see. And then I think what makes Georgia so potent, they can run it, obviously. Yeah. And then Beck, think about those weapons. Matt McConkey, Brock Bowers, Oscar Delp, Robert Tom, they got so many weapons on the outside they can throw the ball to. So
they're awesome.
Yeah, I think for Bama to have a chance, they're going to have to be able to create some pressure. You're going to have to force Beck into some throws. Yeah. That's the key. You're going to have to make him uncomfortable. You're going to have to muddy that pocket and force him into some bad decisions. I think that's the key there. And then on defensive side for Georgia, what I like about them is that they stiffen when they need to most. Yeah. Go back and look at the Tech game, right? Tech goes out to the early, they get the early fumble. They're down 7-0. Now, they've been down almost in every game early with Georgia, so they know how to come back.
Yeah, whoever's playing Georgia is going to score first.
Literally, every game they've been down. But what their defense does is they stiffen. So 7 points. After that, Guess what Tech had? 3 straight field goals. So if they can do that, limit the possessions for Alabama, they're going to have to be able to – I think you got to do a QB spot on Jalen Milroe. You can't let him –
Oh, he's unbelievable. Yeah,
he's unbelievable. You can't let him keep you outside the box.
As good a running back as he is a quarterback. So.
Easily. So you got to have somebody, and you got the key for Georgia, you got to be able to tackle.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't tackle, Bama's going to exploit you. So I think that's another key you got to watch out for in this game as well. And their weapons perform great. I mean, how about that pass on 4th and goal? At 31-yard line,
was it 4th and 38?
Yeah, like come on, man. That's coughing nails right there.
But I mean, as watching, I mean, I'm a Georgia fan, but and I don't really I like SEC football regardless. But you're just like there's like a half a second like you're like shit, Alabama's they're gonna do something here. Like it's just like you don't bet against them because they're gonna create some kind of play that you're like. That if you did that 100 times again, it wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't. Yeah. It wouldn't. And that guy kind of goes to just how great they've been playing. And ever since you would think about it, since that mission against USF, Milroe has been playing some of his best football. And that's the reason why they're here and they have a chance to, 1, win an SEC championship, and 2, make it to the college football playoffs. So they've done a magnificent job.
So just one last question on the college side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy right now. You look at all the undefeated teams, and you get teams right behind them, like with 1 loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember a time like where you're like, oh shit, like there's 15 teams here that are like, or at least probably 10 that could be competing for it.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's intriguing. I want to make my pick, by the way. I'm going with Georgia.
Okay, good.
Yes, so I do want to tell you that.
All right, Najeh can come back on the show.
I got Georgia winning, so I do want to point that out. But I think it's intriguing when you think about it, right? What is really the college football playoff, the 4 team, right? A lot of the time we'll see teams get in undefeated like TCU last year and they got throttled in the national championship game. Yeah, just abused, right? And if we go back and look at last year, the Ohio State Georgia game was the best game.
Yeah, 100%.
That should have been the national championship. So I get it to a point of, especially what Kirk Herbstreit said about, are we really getting the best 4 in, or are we going off record? Because it's almost,
with
you think about
F-bombs.
Yeah, with a few F-bombs, yes. Yes, with a few F-bombs. But it's like what are we doing? So, to a degree, I feel like Florida State should be in, especially if they win. But they're like, oh, is that really a top 4 team without Jordan Travis? So it's kind of like...
Yeah, that was terrible.
But they shouldn't be penalized for having a great year despite their quarterback going down. Yeah. But at the same token, you want the best teams to be in. Yeah. I'm going to say this. If Oregon goes, and I got Oregon this week, I'm going to make a video on it too. I got them beating Washington. I know they're favorite as well. Oregon should be in my opinion. I think Bama, if they win, they should be in. If not, they're done. But I think it's just an intriguing argument because what the top 4 should be, it should be the best 4.
Yeah. I agree. And it's hard because it's all speculation because everybody has emotion about what team's the best team, or if someone had a bad game, is that really an indicative of that they're not a good team? Maybe something happened.
Right.
But I'm going to give a call out to North Alabama for hanging in with Florida State. And that was the best first quarter of football that I'd seen for the underdog. So kudos out there to North Alabama.
But I'm going to throw this to you. I know you've been interviewing me this time. I want to ask you a question. Who would you put as, regardless of record, we're not looking at record, we're not even looking at the matchup tonight or this weekend, who's your top 4 teams you think right now, regardless of record, anything that you would love to see, maybe not happen, but you would love to see in the college football playoff?
I mean, obviously, I think Georgia's won 29 in a row. So I mean, you have to, whether you like Georgia or not, they've won 29 games in a row. So Georgia has to be there. I mean, Washington didn't beat Oregon earlier in the year, right?
They did.
Yeah. So I don't know that Pac-12. I just don't. I think it's good football, but I just don't know. I think Alabama's playing well enough that they should be in it. I'm not a huge Michigan fan. and I don't mean that negative, but like with all the crap going on, I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if they were doing whatever they were doing, but if they were, which I'm not saying they were, I don't know. And Ohio State's got a pretty damn good football team.
They do. And
and it's almost like the same thing happened when Georgia played Michigan. Same thing happened, right? Michigan beats Ohio State, whatever it may be, and Georgia just annihilates them. So it's really hard for me to determine because everybody looks great on paper. You're 12-0, whatever it may be. Yeah. I think Georgia, Washington. I mean, FSU's played a good. I haven't watched a lot of FSU,
Right.
but without their quarterback, I don't know how to say it, but they probably deserve to be there. So what I've got: Georgia, Alabama, Washington. Who else did I say?
Florida State.
Florida State.
Okay, that'll be your top 4. You gotta respect that.
That's it. I mean, and it's not like Michigan's a good team. I don't think they're a good team, but you just don't know. Same thing with TCU beat Michigan.
Right.
You know, how the hell did that how does that happen?
Yep.
Where TCU beats Michigan and then Georgia just annihilates.
Completely.
Just annihilates TCU. Not embarrassing.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's so like I'm not a good analyst. So.
Right.
But anyways, I think Georgia, Alabama is going to be one of the best championship games. It'll be interesting.
And that's what we need to do, especially with this going expanded to a 12-team next year. Yeah. We need to get the best teams in.
Yeah,
and we need to see the best Final Four. And that's what everybody wants to see. Think about it. Back in the day when we had BCS, right? You got the best matchup in the national championship game.
Yeah.
And that was just basically 12-0, 11, whatever. You got the 2 best teams. And I think that's, in some instances, with this college football playoff era, where we've kind of lacked it. We have not got the best matchups. We're getting that in the semis and maybe the SEC championship or the championship games instead of in the national championship.
Yeah, I used to like how the Division II used to do it. You know, they had a true playoff. There'd be like, I don't know, 18, 19 teams or whatever. Right. Not 18 or 36 and whatever it was. But then they played down. I like that because you can get an underdog that's starting to get better, you know, throughout the year, and they're getting better and better and better, and you don't get to see that.
No,
so,
you don't.
You know,
it kind of sucks. Like you see a team, maybe like if we did a 12-team playoff, hey, maybe LSU would be dangerous, even though the defense is not no good, but
they're dangerous.
Yeah, like you put them in that in a 12-team, they might pull off a couple upsets.
Playing in the SEC sucks. I mean, if you're a team, because you're going to get some good football, and you know. But well, all right. So you're picking Georgia. I'm picking Georgia. I gotta pick Georgia. I'm picking Georgia.
I just think they got the better overall team. They've been playing some good football. I gotta roll with Georgia. I think Kirby Smart got the one up right now. I know Nick Saban's undefeated in Mercedes-Benz, and he's won these SEC championships. But
Nick Saban's an awesome
kid. He is awesome. He is.
You know, no matter what, whether you hate the guy or whatever. I mean, he literally will probably get on as one of the best coaches, if not the best.
And he does it the right way.
Yeah. So I mean, I know my Georgia friends are going to hate me for saying that, but I love Kirby too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He's good. Well, Najeh, you've been awesome with us, man. I really appreciate you coming on. And tell everybody, Salty Nation, like where they can watch your shows, specifically what you're doing, and you pick one or two that you want them to come to. Like, you know.
That's a good one. I would say go to Score Atlanta YouTube page. I run the whole channel, so you can go on there and see all my archives. Like I said, I talk to players from out of state. Find me there. Follow me on socials. You can go to Twitter at Najeh Wilk, Instagram Naj Wilk TV. I also got my own YouTube channel I'm trying to grow as well. Sports Talk with Naj, where I talk basically all sports, give my takes on the matches we just talked about and things like that. So yeah, you can find me there. I say Twitter's probably the best one, and then Instagram second, and then YouTube is where all the good stuff goes down. But as far as coming up on shows, I know today I'm going to have an out-of-state player, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And then every Tuesday at noon, me and Craig do a show, co-host a show. That's a lot of fun, and we just talk college football, high school football, and NFL. So that was a lot of fun too.
Dude, it's been awesome. You'll see this kid on ESPN one day. So, Salty Nation, that's all for today. So, we talked a little bit of Georgia football. It's going to be an interesting weekend for high school and college, but we appreciate you watching the show. Let's go.